Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Reverse Sweep. I am your host, Doug Censor Martin, joined alongside the Slayer and the world champion, Parasite. How are you guys all doing today?
Doing great. Finally got a Toronto Ultra win. So, Doug, I'm doing phenomenal. I hope you guys are as well.
I'm having a great day. Just happy to have a good event. Finally, we get to see Toronto on the board. Those guys have deserved a win. And in our bracket that we did before the major, we had those guys making a run. Pat actually had them winning. So yeah, it was a cool one to watch. OpTic had their little run, which was actually dope to see them make a run at their major. Yeah, it was overall a great event, man. I can't say it enough.
And if you're wondering why Doug didn't intro me, it's because we actually do have beef, and me and Doug aren't friends. So if anyone's wondering, Doug's shooting for my spot, and he's not introing me. But I am here this week as well. But yeah, before we hop into it, again, we hit the goal, and so we're hopping into another giveaway. This time, not brought to us by an Aches jersey, but from our boy Parasite.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a Battle Beaver controller giveaway. So it's a little bit more worth than a unfortunately signed Patrick Price jersey. No.
Oh, that's debatable.
But hey, Battle Beaver controllers are the best controllers you can get on the market. I personally use one. A lot of pro players use one. So we'll be doing a giveaway. All that you need to do is be subscribed. Make sure that you guys post a comment in the chat. And the comment of choice is you're going to put your current favorite CDL player. And then if you have a Twitter, this is completely optional, you can mark that down. So it'll be easy to reach out to you if you do end up winning. So once again, be subbed, comment your favorite pro player, and then put your Twitter handle in there if you have one. But yeah, that'll be the giveaway.
Beautiful. So let's hop straight into it. It was an exciting weekend of Call of Duty. And like you said, OpTic made a big run. I think that was kind of the biggest storyline of the weekend. Most unexpected storyline. So what are our thoughts? OpTic Gaming places second with their brand new roster.
Take it away, Pat.
It was a typical run.
You love OpTic. I know you love OpTic.
I love them. Yeah, you're right, Chris. Totally. Yeah, no, it was a typical run out of them. I think finally we got to see like Huke step up. We also saw Shotzzy play phenomenal all weekend long, really. Chris's favorite COD player ever, Dan Ghosty, had his kind of debut. I mean, honestly, like he beat my expectations. I wasn't expecting him to like come out and get fried or anything like that, but he did definitely pass the eye test. And so yeah, they played well. I wish they would have had a tougher run. I hate to say that, but I mean, like when we look at the run that they had, they didn't really play the good teams up until Saturday, and even then they played Surge coming off a loss and then FaZe coming off a loss, which is always unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, they made it to a finals. I'm sure their home crowd loved it. And I'm just curious to see if they can keep this momentum going forward, or do we see like a little bit of a fall off a cliff scenario where they just like rode that momentum, they had a ton of hype, and then how they do and we get back to the online stages.
Doug, what do you think about this OpTic run?
Well, I think that it's so weird, and Dan is obviously the new player. He's a challenger player who just won about like 5 weeks ago, and here he is playing on the biggest franchise. And I lived with Dan, spent a lot of time with him over the last season, and I know the type of player he is, and I think he showed out at the event, obviously. And I think that he got a lot of criticism, which obviously is going to happen with OpTic, but it's conflicting because not only is Dan basically like my son, but also Boston is my organization, and they send ball home. So OpTic to me isn't going to go anywhere because they showed a lot of resiliency in this tournament to make it a loser's run, especially in the CDL when you start in losers round one. To be able to get all the way into a grand finals, win 2 maps in the finals as well. To beat the team that sent you to the losers bracket is a huge thing to me. And that's why I feel conflicted, because Ben showed out in the first series. First series on LAN, had a fantastic series, and they had a dominant performance versus OpTic. And then moving forward, you know, OpTic went on their run, and then when it really mattered, they beat Boston, which is the organization that I consider my family. So I'm a little bit conflicted, but I'm definitely proud of Dan, and OpTic Gaming is in great hands with him as well. Regardless of their performance in this tournament, I knew they'd be in great hands because I knew what Dan gave me when I played with him, and I know he's going to want to do that every single time he plays for the Green Wall. So I'm proud, to say the least, but I'm also a little bit upset for Boston. So it's a little bit conflicting for me.
For me, I think this OpTic run is something to look forward to. These guys obviously had a problem with Illy on their team. Not to say that Illy isn't a great player, but he unfortunately just was not meshing with them, whether it was something outside of the game or his actual individual performance. They had to find somebody. And although I doubt this will be the roster next year, just because we know like they had other options that will be available next season, I think it's nice to give somebody like Dan a chance to represent, OpTic as a whole. Dan played pretty good, I think. I think what mainly impressed me the most was, regardless of his stats, if you watched his POV or at countless times the observers watched him, he was getting a lot of very important kills. It never felt like he was just spawn killing people or farming people on a setup. It always seemed like every time he was getting his kills, it was in very important situations, whether he needed to clutch up on a hold or he was getting like important trades. He was always effective. Granted, I still think Dan could obviously hit a higher ceiling, as we know that he was in Challengers. I don't think he was brought onto this team for that role. So it's good to see that his other teammates were also able to step up, because that was a criticism that some people had of Dan. They were like, "Oh yeah, dude, Dashy and Ghosty are playing the same, and it's not going to work out." But then we saw Dashy obviously come back to form during this match, which was a worry for some people if that was going to. So I'm pretty content with the OpTic run, man. It was cool. But with all that said and done, what do you guys think of the future of this team? Do you think they're going to keep this up going into the next major? Do you think there's any potential for any of these guys outside of, we know, our staples, Dashy and Shotzzy, to be on this team in the long term with, Pred and like Sib and all those people, and even Arcides at one point were all wanting to join OpTic, but it's never worked out. What are you guys' thoughts on that, Pat? We'll start with you.
Well, I guess my question is, do you mean long term as in like this season or like next season? Because like I think my feelings about next season. I think this roster is going to end up being Shotzzy, Dashy, Sib, and Pred, no matter what happens. We kind of talked about this last episode a little bit. Doug, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but we were basically saying like, Ghosty came in on this team and he's playing a role player, right? He's being a role player on this roster. He's filling a role for them, and we kind of mentioned like this isn't a role players league, which is unfortunate because those players often get overlooked and kind of casted out when people are stacking these dominant squads. And so, I think regardless of how they do the rest of this season, I still think a change is going to happen this offseason regardless. But if you're talking short term, Chris, I think this roster is going to stick it out for the rest of the year. This is definitely going to be the OpTic team. I think they're capable of making it to grand finals. I don't know if we can see them perform consistently the way they do, right? Like we talked about that series Shotzzy had against FaZe, like that was insane. Like that was probably one of, if not the best, like performances out of a single player in a series. So I don't know. To me, it's just a matter of can they keep up playing at this level.
What about you, Doug?
Yeah, I think this OpTic roster, I think you guys, I think our community loves to just always look at the grass being greener on the other side. What's next? Getting a win in the COD League is hard. Getting second is definitely something to hold your head high over. Yeah, there's other options. You could get Pred and Sib, and you could drop Huke and Ghosty and have Pred, Sib, and Shotzzy and Dashy, and it's so great. It doesn't mean they're going to be getting the results they just got, or it doesn't mean that they're going to get a win. And I don't think that dominance that we're all like trying to strive for, like Pat, you had that dominance at one point in your career. Chris, you also had that dominance as well. That dominance, it was shown with Atlanta FaZe for a little bit, and you could clearly see that it's turning in from a dominance to a consistent top contender. First, third is the Atlanta FaZe this year. Second last year. But it's not a first. So if their first event with a rookie who's never played in the league is getting second, they could absolutely contend for championships. And if it's not broken, you don't fix it. That's my philosophy on teams. And then again, with Ender, they got fourth, so it kind of goes against what they did. But for me personally, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I don't think you need to look into other options and see if the grass is greener on the other side, because it's right there in front of you. And all you got to do is just keep on going, right? So I think it's obviously going to be one of those things where they determine how it's going to go throughout the season, how they perform in the next tournament, how they perform going into the World Championship, right? So for for now, I think they're fine. And from what I understand, I think OpTic is very happy with their team. And I don't think that any of them are looking at changes the way that the community does, to be honest.
Yeah. And now with the, I thought that like one series that kind of stuck out in my brain, like throughout the whole run, was the London series. And like, I think a lot of people might overlook how important that was in like the grand scheme of not only like how OpTic did, but maybe even Dan's future of playing in the CDL. Because I know last episode we kind of talked about certain challenger players getting put in weird positions where they might not succeed right away. And then we've seen in the past where if someone's not successful in the Call of Duty League, they might lose that opportunity and then get looked over for months or seasons. So what do you think that they did to regain basically after that first loss and then be able to squeeze out that win against London?
I don't know what they could have done in that short of a time. It was literally a day's worth of time. They needed to win that match, obviously, because like you said, I don't think Dan would probably be fucked. No, like as much as I love Dan, that's often the situation that happens is the challenger player gets scapegoated. When they were losing to London at one point, and we were thinking they were going to lose. If you seen the chat, it was like, Dan sucks. Oh my God, dude, Parasite, you gave them bad advice, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, bro, it's never that black and white. COD fans, a lot of them are NPCs. But anyways, I just think that they needed their stars to start playing well. I don't know if they weren't comfortable. I don't know if they were just too frantic whenever they would play the game, because if we noticed their listen-ins in the later stages of the tournament, they were a lot calmer and communication was getting out a little bit better and more efficient. I couldn't tell you, but the turnaround was nuts. They all went from having like 0.8s, 0.7s, and 0.9s to having a couple 1.0s, or having some players go 1.4, 1.2s, 1.3s. Hell, even Dan started slaying at times. I just think they finally got a little bit more comfortable, and they started to figure out, I think, the maps. I think this was the same thing that happened to Thieves to a degree at the last major, where we said going into it, we don't know what they're good at. And then I think OpTic was also playing maps that, at least from online, they thought they were competitive in. For example, like an Embassy Hardpoint-esque type of map. Like they used to play that map all the time. But then we saw them, continue to lose it. They mix up their map pool in the later stages versus some of the other teams, and then they start, being comfortable. They're like, oh, we're going to get Fortress. Oh, we're going to get Hydros. We're going to get Hotel, S&D. Like, they start finding these stable maps they can rely on. And on that Saturday, the two matches that they won, they got the same 3 maps in a row in both of them. And they ended up winning the majority of those sets of 3 maps. So I think it's the same thing that happened at Thieves. They just caught fire. They caught fire. They figured out their game plan, and they were to execute that game plan throughout it panned out. What about you, Pat? Sorry.
Why'd you go to me like that? What was the original question? I'm gonna make sure I
was rambling.
I think it was
because you went on a tangent a little bit.
Yeah, it was basically around like the importance of that first the importance of the London match in general, and maybe what the alternative reality would look like, and then really just how they regained from that day one kind of performance to that London match, because I feel like after the London match it was pretty smooth sailing in terms of that momentum got caught.
So, I mean, that first series, I don't know how much credit we can really give to it, because like Beans fried so hard that it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like a damn, like this guy just was on one this match. And I don't think we really got a performance out of any of the guys that was spectacular at all on the OpTic team. And so I think it was like first event jitters, first game jitters with a new roster. Although that London series, I mean, dude, honestly, that London team looked way better in that series than I think they've ever looked that I saw. And so I think it was a good momentum thing. But like I said in the beginning, like, honestly, they had a pretty easy run, James, early on. Like, they got London and Florida back to back. And I think that was like best case scenario, honestly, for this OpTic team to get the momentum they needed, to get the crowd into it behind them, right? Like they played probably arguably 2 of the bottom 4 teams here. And granted, Florida beat NY, which was impressive, but that Florida team that we saw versus OpTic was not the same. I think OpTic kind of just handled them pretty easily. And so I think it was massive, you know, to be able to drop to the losers and play those 2 teams specifically. Like if they would have dropped to the losers and had like one of the tougher round 1 matchups, it could have got interesting. I know it went the distance, obviously, but they clutched up, and I think it was everything to get in that position, get the crowd hyped, get that crowd behind them, seeing the win finally. I think it was a huge catalyst.
Yeah, James, just to add on to what you said, James, with that London series, that Mercado Hardpoint was probably Dan's most important moment of the tournament. Obviously, our job is to pay attention, but I'm going to pay close attention to people like Dan. And I think the best thing that I thought about Dan as a player when I played with him was his ability to manipulate the map in Hardpoint to his favor so well by himself. And I feel like he did that prime thing that he always used to do in challengers with us on that OpTic roster in that Mercado versus London to force that game 5 as well. And then obviously in the game 5 too, he showed up with a lot of big plays. I think he really wanted to solidify his spot. I think he knew what was at stake there if they were to get dead last at the major and not win a series, and another rookie frying and 3-0ing them instead of losing to one of the worst teams in the league with London. You know, I think that was really the turning point for them too. And I do agree with you, James, that Mercado Hardpoint was probably the moment where I said, okay, this is where you can get settled in. You get your first one under your belt. Adding on to what Pat said, the Florida series, another win where you can kind of just keep on keeping your juices flowing, not having to play a team that already won a championship, not a team that was formed from challengers that has a couple of weeks of practice. You know, like you're not playing Thieves for top 8 or top 6 or something like that. You know what I mean? Or Toronto, New York even, right? So I think that when you get a little bit of momentum in Call of Duty, and Pat and Chris know this very well, you start feeling unstoppable and you ride that momentum and you just do everything you can to continue that going. And unfortunately for them, it just fell short because Scrappy was just on another level this tournament. And it looked a lot like the challengers of last year too, with Hicksy as well. Obviously they brought him in, right? And they just got the win. So clearly there's something that works for those guys.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue because, I mean, last time we said if they place the same as the last major, it'd probably be a win for them. So I think this exceeded expectations. But let's move on to the team that actually won. Toronto Ultra. Scrappy MVP. Hicksy wins his first ever professional Call of Duty tournament. Tippable. Thoughts?
Not only was it tippable, James, Hicksy actually played phenomenal. Like I didn't harp on this roster change originally. I think I just misunderstood it because they didn't really give the details on why Standy got dropped, right? It was just kind of like a random move. But yeah, I mean, Hicksy played phenomenal all weekend long. He impressed me straight up. I was not expecting him to be that good. And the big thing for me is just how much he enables CleanX to play like CleanX. I think that's what they were missing on this roster. I think, Chris, you mentioned it, like Standy and CleanX kind of played the same style, and you know that was good in like the honeymoon phase, but we kind of see as the team, you know, grows that it's a little bit more of a clash. But I think Hicksy came into this team and really elevated all these guys to play really comfortable. Scrappy, I think, said it in the interview, like Hicksy might not be bringing the gunny, but he's bringing like a ton of smarts and kind of just in-game awareness. And I think that's really paid dividends for this roster. But look, man, they were phenomenal all weekend long in every game mode. And I think that's really what was the standout difference for them. I saw a stat where they're like the only team in the CDL that's top 5 record-wise in every single game mode. And I think that's huge, right? Like they think about it. They broke FaZe's S&D streak. They then broke OpTic's hardpoint streak, which was like 9. It's probably the longest we've ever seen. So these guys are just such a well-rounded team. I think, in my opinion, it was just due. And then obviously, yeah, you had Scrappy playing at MVP level. But I mean, he's been frying, honestly, the entire time. I know he had a quiet, that day 2 at Boston, that Saturday where they got double like 3-0'd. But honestly, he's been frying all season long. So I think it was just kind of coming due for them. But I gotta say, James, I am pissed because I was really hoping in Scrappy's interview when they won, he was going to talk a little bit of shit because he's obviously been talking shit in the matches. But they won, and he was in the interview, and he was a little too humble for my likings. I wanted him to get out there and kind of give it to the crowd and talk some shit. But yeah, I mean, they look phenomenal. And I think if you're a Toronto Ultra fan, like the sky's the limit for these guys.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't gas Scrappy enough. The guy played lights out the entire tournament. The stars in the league since he joined that Toronto team. But also, I got to give love to Insight, man. I think although Insight's been pretty quiet throughout, this year, Insight, even dating back to the older Toronto Ultra team, like he's been a really good leader. Like he's been a good building block for this team where he's giving out like communication. He's being that backline player, the backbone essentially of the team where he might not always put up a lot of engagements, but he's always that person that's going to just like prevent people from getting through or holding the line whenever the team needs them. But also he stepped up massively in their series against FaZe to get them into the grand final. He was absolutely frying, and he played really well. Hicksy, also, he's a very fundamentally sound player. He might not perform the best, but he was always coming up big in big situations, just putting up a lot of impact plays. He gets a lot of hill time for their team. He enables everybody else, and he has good communication. If you want to listen, bro, he fit right in with the Toronto occasion. They sounded basically the same, how they always do. That super calm, collective communication that those guys are a staple of. I think that's why they're so good at Control, bro. Control is one of those slow down game modes where you just need to like think, get a situation, execute the situation, and then stack the fucking. And they're really good at slowing the game down and executing those things well and methodically. So, yeah, Toronto Ultra, fantastic. I'm glad they were finally able to translate their online play because we actually did the reverse sweep bracket. I was like, yo, I'm done putting Toronto up there if they can't replicate the success on LAN again. And they ended up winning the tournament. So I'm going to eat my words a little bit there. What about you, Doug?
Well, I think that people need to understand now that we see Hicksy in the CDL. I don't know what the official stats are, but what I've known of Charlie since Challengers and LAN and being in the, he subbed in last year for Cammy on that one series in Vanguard. He's been like a consistent 0.85 player in the league. And I don't like this stigma of you're a 0.85, you're a detriment. And I'm a player just like Charlie, man. And I see that all the time, and we deal with this all the time in the league. But look, Toronto put him in because they knew they needed a player like that on their team to enable someone like Scrap. Every team needs a good dynamic of fast and slow, objective, killer, slayer, bait for your team, give good comms. Charlie is an excellent, smart player. I've had the privilege to play this guy for over a year now. It doesn't surprise me that they won and Scrap got the MVP because I saw this last year as well. And I think every team needs a good balance. I think when you take the players like Beans, who drops a 1.6, well, let's get Beans, and then let's get Scrappy, and then let's get Cellium, right? And then let's get like Simp. You don't need all these 1.6s on the team. You need that one who does it, right? Then you need the other one who could be the fundamental guy. Then you need the other one who could fill the lanes, right? Like winning is a team game in Call of Duty, and Toronto just showed that at the highest level at this tournament. And for a challenger player, I think they said the stat was he's the first player to win his first major since Scump. I think that's
and Bobby.
Isn't it Mir? Didn't Mir also do it as well?
No.
Mir got 7th, 8th at UMG.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, look, that just puts a highlight on players, coming in the league. It's not always about you got to fry and drop all these 3 pieces. Yeah, every player has to do that at times. Even Hicksy as well. Hicksy has to pop off and fry and maybe be the hard carry at times too. But Call of Duty is a role-dependent, job-dependent game. And if you want to win, everyone needs to be here with their communication, with their level, with their intensity. And it works with Toronto, man. Scrappy and Hicksy work. Insight, I think Scrappy and Insight is the best AR duo in the league. I was saying this before the league even happened. And it's going to be a team that's always going to contend for championships. It reminds me of the Cold War Toronto as well. So OpTic looks great. Toronto looks great. And I'm really curious to see how Atlanta in particular is going to adjust to them, because obviously Atlanta is always going to be one of the favorites, and they got third here. So third, first, and third. I'm sure they're going to make their adjustments. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to adjust moving forward to Major 4.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue too to chat into that.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted it's actually one more thing I wanted to can't remember. Yeah, I think I was going to say about the stats stuff. You said a lot of people look at stats. I think people just have the wrong order of statistics when it comes to telling a story. First off, you actually have to watch the game and understand the situations. But secondly, you got to look at damage and you got to look at it assists. Kills, all it does is means you finished the kill. You're the one that hit the last bullet or got the nade on him. Damage and assists strictly means that you are putting, not only are you hitting shots or hitting your tacticals and nades, it means that the assist means that you are contributing. If you have a high amount of damage, but low amount of assists, it means you're playing solo. If you have a high amount of kills and you have a low amount of assists, it means that you're finishing your kills. But if you have a low amount of damage, that means you're just like getting people that are one shot. You're cleaning up. There's like a different story to tell with every single stat. KD is not the only thing that matters. The difference between a 1.0 and a like 0.8 is like nothing. Like it's a handful of kills, which in a grand scheme of an entire map or entire best of 5, literally could be one map differential. Like one map going negative could put you at like a 0.8. And you could play like fine, even the rest of the map. Like it's stupid. Stats, the people don't know how stats work. They see 0.8 and they just are like, whoa, what the? This guy got fried. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's always, yeah.
Move on to FaZe.
But yeah, I mean, FaZe came out hot. I mean, people were tweeting, just give them the trophy already. They're about to run it back. And then they hit a little bit of a wall when that S&D win streak ended. And then, yeah. So what messed up with FaZe after that hot start?
Go ahead, Pat. Talk to me about your FaZe.
Yeah, I mean, I think Slasher had a really hot start to the tournament and then really got cold the rest of it. I don't think Slasher like costed by any means like that, but really I think that losing Toronto series, it's tough because like, I mean, at the end of the day, they lost to the 1 and 2 teams, but in the winter finals, when they lost that S&D streak to Toronto after winning game 1, they just honestly looked a lot flatter than I thought. Like, I mean, granted, Toronto played great in that series. Austin didn't play too hot. And then and I hate this because like they're not bad at it, but like there's actually a stat I was looking at, James, where the team's records when they fall to losers after losing out of winners, like showing all the teams like how they react different. I think OpTic's one of the better teams at that. Like they don't really go out lose that immediate series. But FaZe like has been in that situation a few times where they lose out of winners and then they fall flat when they hit losers. And I think they were playing a red hot OpTic team. Who got probably the best, again, a great series for them. Like they played Boston right away, and got hot early, and then FaZe just dropped down and play the red hot team. And we saw that on that Fortress. Like OpTic came out and literally world started them. It was a 250 to like 90 game, but it actually was the fastest hard point we've had this season. It was like 7.5 minutes. And so I mean, yeah, they fell flat. They didn't look great in that OpTic series at all. I think it kind of just one of those like OpTic just showed up moments. But honestly, like I'm not worried about it. Like this FaZe team, they lose to the 1 and 2 teams of this tournament. They still managed to get top 3. They still ran the winner bracket, got to winter finals. It's weird, right? When we talk about this FaZe team nowadays, we don't know what to say. It's like, yeah, they're gonna make top 3 every event. Yeah. It's like we're never worried about them. And it's like the question is, do they clutch up in their big series and win it all, or do they fall a little short? I think this time they just ended up falling a little short, but I think they'll bounce back. They'll probably have a dominant Major 4. And I think the only big call out here is like Ben like saying this, like, does FaZe have a mental block against this OpTic team? That was the one thing I was really hoping was gonna help when Austin got on this team, was like kind of helping them get over that hurdle. But honestly, I mean, he was really quiet in that OpTic series, and so I think that was a big difference maker for them. I really wanted him to kind of just come out and fry OpTic, and kind of set the tone and get over this little like FaZe has a mental block era, since they apparently did in Vanguard. But this is the first time I think they lost to him on LAN, the first time they matched up. So definitely fell short. Probably did not meet their expectations. But I mean, look, they ran their S&D streak. They still look good across the board. The big thing is just they got to improve at hardpoint. That's really the big call out. Like their hardpoint is just not up to par. I don't think it's like bottom 4 in the league or anything like that, but I mean, they're losing hard points, and when you have that much talent on the team, like you should be taking respawns in a series convincingly.
I know we like to say that OpTic has a lot of left stick mistakes, is what we call them, when it comes to their respawn game modes and why they lose. But I think the reason why FaZe struggles in hardpoint in this game is because they have a pacing issue. A lot of people won't think they do, but they have a pacing issue. 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 They have a pacing and they are competitive in a lot of the hard points that they play. But I think that at times, situationally, they get into these weird, awkward scenarios where the only one who is playing with aggression is a Beezy, and even sometimes maybe he's playing with too much aggression. And when it comes to those, crunch time like moments where they got to like break a hill and they get a certain amount of kills and they have to like finally kill the last guy or pounce on the last two, they get staggered or they like take a little bit too much time. And I feel like a lot of that reason is Cellium. I think Cellium is an MVP caliber player, and I feel like he makes way more good plays than he does mistakes. But there are times where I've noticed that like he'll play too much for somebody to like peek him, when like if that person does give him nothing, he almost is just like sitting there waiting and being useless. Like, so at times it's like he's trying to like for example, if like a player's behind a wall in a hard and he can wall bang that wall, he'll try to wall bang that wall instead of just jumping at the guy and getting the kill. And like if he doesn't wall bang the guy, he just wastes an entire clip. His boy runs up behind him, runs past him, runs into the hill and dies. He's sitting there reloading. Like it literally happened on that Mercado where he's just wall banging the fucking wall for the entire time when like he's just waiting for his team. I'm like, bro, you got to like engage, like wall bang the door a couple times, whatever, open the door, like start the engagement process. You're costing your team. It obviously is super niche because I think Cellium more often than not is making plays that are helping this team win. I think they have a pacing issue to a degree. And I feel like at times he needs to speed the fuck up because the hard point in this game needs to be played a lot quicker in certain scenarios, and he's not doing it.
Chris, that was spot on. You actually stole a lot of the words out of my mouth with the wall bangs thing as well. And I think a big reason why they are so consistent is because of his performances he brings every single tournament. And you know what you're going to get from MC every time he plays Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. And after they won the major, we talked about this in the last podcast. They were in my hotel. Slasher bumped into me in the hallway in the hotel, and he said, we're going to have to work on hardpoint. We're going to have to work on it. So they've had a few weeks to work on it. I don't know if I could say they've necessarily improved in hardpoint, which you're always looking to do, but the one thing about FaZe, like Pat said, you can never count them out. Even the Seattle match, I don't think we talk enough about this, but the plays that Simp made 5-5 against Seattle in that search and destroy is some of the most elite search and destroy you could ever see. And you can clearly tell the way that changes the momentum of players, careers, series, tournaments, organizations, right? Like Seattle came out flat versus OpTic after that because I'm sure it demoralized them that Simp made his 5-5 play on Sib and on Pred when they had the 3v2. So if they can figure out hardpoint, it will be like the Cold War phase again. So I think everyone in the league knows that because their search is just the best in the league. And if their hardpoint can get more consistent, if MC stops wallbanging sometimes, like this is the thing with a 0.85 and a 1.3. If that's Charlie Hicksy, he's just going to run in the hill, jump chow, and he might not even hit a bullet. And that's going to be why he's a 0.85. And MC is going to wallbang it, let a BZ run in, maybe let Simp run in, but he's gonna play a guarantee every time. So if you play that way, your stats are gonna show it. Not always will it be the best play, and it goes back to what you said with eye test, Chris. But more times than not, Cellium is gonna be in form and making a lot of plays to help his team win. So when they fall short, are we expecting them to win every single tournament? I'm not. Am I expecting them to get like top 3, top 4, top 6 at worst if it's an off week for them? Yeah. So to me, this is no new news. I mean, top 3 is whatever. Like they're always going to be back and ready for the next one.
Yeah, I think it's always funny when we do talk about FaZe because it's obviously like if they don't win, it's like what did they do wrong? And there is like this weird expectation that they're just going to win every single tournament, and we're talking like they place top 12 or something when their bad tournaments are top 3, top 4.
They're just an anomaly to talk about. Like
yeah,
like we talk about every team on the 1 through 12 scale, and they're the 1 through 3 scale.
Yeah,
like it's like it's just an anomaly.
But I mean, to be fair, they've set that expectation, so now it's like everyone just holds them to it, and it's better for them that way. On to Doug. You want to kick this one off?
Yeah,
let's talk about your breach.
Right. So Ben got his first pro event at this tournament. He had the best debut, I would probably say, in CDL history. I was on a plane heading into the event with Sean right next to me. And obviously, we were teaming with him all year until this event. And we were very nervous and excited. And this Ben Beans image that I've been seeing since last year showed on the main stage, and I was just star-stunned by it. Ben came out and he played everything that he's been telling me privately. He wants to be the first European to win a ring, has so much passion, so much intensity towards the game. He wants it bad, and he showed out, man. And for Boston to get a better placing, obviously Zinni retired, they got top 6. They bring in Ben, they improved. They did 4-1 online, which we don't talk enough about how important those online matches are. Getting those CDL points.
Too important. Too important.
I agree with you, Pat. They are extremely important, extremely to the point where it's like ridiculously important. But nonetheless, that's what it is. And he came in, they went 4-1 in their matches. They just got top 4 at the first event. I think that they have a lot of film that they're going to go back. And I know Boston works extremely hard every single day. I'm sure they micromanage every little thing. They're all extremely detailed. They're going to do everything they can to improve. But I was very impressed with the potential of what Boston could do at this tournament. Obviously, they want to win it, and I'm sure that they're disappointed they got 4th, but improvement's always nice to see, and I'm just happy to see the people that are around me, because it's Dan, right? It's Ben, potentially Kremp, like all these people that I'm playing with over this last year, I'm going to war with. I'm seeing these guys all prosper and do well and getting theirs, and it's really nice and it's really inspiring for me to see. So I'm happy for Boston. Obviously, for the organization as a whole, I'm happy for all of us for this weekend. It's a good step in the right direction. So we just want to keep our heads working. And I don't know, for Boston, they're going to continue to strive to improve. So I'm very happy to see what they did at this event, because you could start your first event against OpTic Gaming on the main stage, and it could go a million different ways. And for it to go that way, it's definitely a massive confidence booster for not only Ben, but for the entire team.
Yeah. Well, damn, Doug, you basically gave the Boston Breach speech. Yeah, I mean, beans fried that day one, simple as that. But I was disappointed of his performance the rest of the major. I mean, obviously, like with that 1.7 performance or whatever it was day one against OpTic, that's not going to be expected out of him by any means. But I was hoping that he was a little bit stronger the rest of the tournament. I actually had him in my fantasy team. I had him and Ghosty, by the way. Picked the rookies, and hey, they both got top 4, so it works out. But yeah, I mean, look, we were talking about this a little bit on the flank, and Doug, I'm actually curious to what you think, because it has implications for you. You may not like, but I actually want to see Breach make a change, Doug. And the reason I say that is because for me, I feel like their ceiling is top 4. Like the placement they got this weekend, that's kind of their ceiling. I don't know if I have confidence in that roster breaking into the top 3. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're not bottom 4. They never will be, in my opinion. I think they're just going to be like that 4 through 8 team, like solid, to kind of jump around a little bit. But I think this current roster at least is capped at top 4. But Doug, your teammate, Crimp, I actually think he was frying for you guys all weekend. And we were talking about the Vivid Nero sub duo and how kind of inconsistent they can be, because they both just play incredibly fast. And Chris is going to say he prefers Nero, and I think it's either way here. But I personally would like to see them trial with Crimp and see if they get better. If maybe they realize they just fit better, or something like that. Because I'm just afraid that this team is capped at top 4, and I don't think they're going to be stressing about making champs. I think they're definitely going to be at champs and things like that. But I would like to see Crimp come into this roster and see what it changed, even if it was for online scrims, or we talked about Major 4 is in Columbus at like the pro, it's like how the pro am was, so there are gonna be no fans. But I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, obviously I'm biased towards Kyle, right? I picked him up last year, and here we are now, and we just got our best placing as challengers, and he had a fantastic tournament. And yeah, Kyle fried, man. He had the best tournament of his life this tournament. I've been playing with him for 5 now or 6, and this is definitely the best tournament he's ever had. Not sure why or how or what, but Kyle's a very fun player for me to play with, I feel, because he's very unorthodox, and I know his strength and his weaknesses very well, but the one thing that I know that's really, really strong with Kyle is his search and destroy. And I'm sure with Boston, their respawn is always really good, and their S&D is pretty good too, especially with Ben on the sniper. But Kyle has this intangible with his S&D where I see it every day I play with him. I mean, we just pull things off that nobody else can pull off, and I feel like it's a team effort, but a lot of it I feel comes from the things that he can do and the abilities he has to just read the map and read pressure and just make a play and catch somebody off guard to get a blood. And that's the one thing that he brings to a team more than anything else. And I feel like with the Boston main roster, if they could perfect their search and destroy, it would be amazing. So I don't know, to be honest with you, Pat, because I didn't watch much of Boston's matches this tournament because we started losers top 24 and we ran all the way to top 3. So it was really hard for me to watch these matches.
That's typical.
Yeah, thank you. But it was really hard for me to watch. I'm going to watch the VOD when I get back home after my flight tomorrow. I'm going to watch the main team VOD. I'm going to watch the Academy VOD. I'm going to watch most of it tonight too, but I haven't seen much of it yet. I don't know what to say. All I know is that they improved, and I was just staying in my lane the whole tournament. But yeah, I mean, I think that Boston's Academy team is the strongest it's ever been, and I feel like we're only going to get better. I mean, I don't think anyone in this Academy team thinks that our ceiling is top 3. I think we all know where we're going to end up going in these next few months. So as long as we stay working, anything's possible. And for the main team, with Zach and with Denholm and, everyone in Boston and Josh, they're always looking for improvement. And I feel like they've done a great job with the roster so far. And they have my ultimate trust, so I don't really care. I just stay in my lane, Pat, to be honest. But I just see improvement on both sides, and I just really try to stick in my lane.
As for me, in terms of the whole Krem situation, I would be interested in maybe trying it. Maybe not fully committing it and outright ruining your roster. But I do think that Vivid, at least statistically, has not performed that well. I think Nero has been a lot more consistent lately, and he's been stepping up to a form that, at least personally, I thought he had the potential to be. Beans did not play good this tournament outside of the first series that they played. He played poorly in the second series versus Toronto Ultra, where he basically had like a 0.6, 0.7, which I don't think 0.8s, 0.9s, anything in that range is very bad. But when you start getting down to the 0.7s, 0.6, especially being an AR player, that's where it's kind of scary. But also, he played really poorly against OpTic, but I think they all kind of did do besides Reese. So still kind of concerned, although they did get top 4. They didn't really beat anyone crazy outside of the first series against OpTic. They had a good series against Ultra that I guess they could have won. It went map 5, but overall statistically they didn't play very well. So I don't know how consistently they can, take a team like Ultra to that level. But yeah, I think Kremp is a good shout. I think he's very talented. Playing against him, you definitely always feel his impact. But Beans still got to step up. He does bring some intangibles. He gives a lot of high energy. And then Ben on the flank actually made this comparison, but we need to see Awakening play better on LAN. I feel like that's always been a pretty noteworthy criticism of Awakening, where he does really good online and he's pretty damn consistent, but we do see him have these stinkers on LAN that I don't think some people expect. So overall, I think Boston just struggles with consistency issues all around.
Yeah. Now, before we go on to this next topic, it's kind of a lead-in question, and I don't really know if it had an effect on their placement, but I feel like all this sound EQ stuff has been talked about a lot, and then I feel like I heard sometime last week-ish that, like, did most or all of the teams, like, just say, fuck it, okay, we're all going to start using it at some point, like what is the ratio around, or obviously it's only rumors, but like what's the ratio of teams in the league that are actually using it right now?
Just from what I've talked to, there's probably at least 1 to 3 players on every.
Okay.
So the majority of the league still runs it online. And again, it's because online matches mean too much. And personally, if you need points and you're not running it, you're stupid. But if you don't need points, and you're just like, for example, FaZe or Ultra, that's just in such a good position, you probably just take it off just to get some better LAN practice. But the difference is absurd, at least going from challengers to online. I don't really know what the sound equipment is like up on main stage or how well you can hear with the earbuds and the white noise. Obviously, it blocks off the surrounding sound, but with like normal headphones like this, The difference is absurd. At home, you can't flank like with an AR. If you don't have dead silence, you can't flank anything. And even sometimes, apparently, with dead silence, you still get heard through it. So the game changes a lot. I don't ever know if there's going to be a solution, and it sucks.
Now, as we transition in, I don't know if it had any effect on LAT or whatever the case was, but they did get upset by Vegas with an early exit. Thoughts on that? Surprise?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what the hell happened to LAT this entire event. I do know that they're pretty upset about it, and I think that we'll see a different LAT next major, but
a different roster, or are you saying
no, sorry,
okay.
sorry, like a different team, like
them?
just
Okay.
yeah, a different version, yeah. But dude, I don't know, man. Vegas was on another level in those first few matches. Like I say Vegas, but it was really like Temp. I had not seen Temp play that good in a long ass time. He was frying those first two matches. And so yeah, I mean, like all the love to him. Clay was doing his thing. I think Vegas kind of like Chris, you've said it a lot. Like they got worse at S&D with this change with 2-Real for Pro Loop, but they're showing out in respawns. The LAT upset though, I mean, that hotel hardpoint, that comeback was absolutely unacceptable. It was like 206 to 60, like that 5 hills in a row and they get like 20 points. Like that was unacceptable. The kill feed was all, I don't know what Vegas's colors are in the in the kill feed, but it was all their color. And yeah, I mean that's just like kind of one of those miracle matches of the event. I don't want to discredit Vegas, but I mean like if that match was to happen 100 times, I'm probably taking LAT 99 of them. But yeah, they came out, they showed out and did their thing, and I think they got themselves back in the conversation for maybe they could upset that 8 seed for champs, and I think that's obviously what they're going for. Clay actually did tweet after this event like how kind of he was pissed about obviously a few things, but mainly the fact that they got top 6 here, which is huge, right? Like a top 6 performance is great, but they got the same amount of pro points that they got for going 2 and 3 in the online split, and so it's like, to me, that's ridiculous. I mean, LAN events should be double, if not triple, the weighting of these online matches, and the fact that they're basically equal is kind of fucking ridiculous. So another thing that they obviously had to deal with was they were like the first match, last match BS, and then they had the last match with no scrims on the second the day they got eliminated. But look, the takeaway is Vegas was a positive this weekend. If you're a Vegas fan, you're happy. I think they at least got top 6 and they got themselves back in that conversation for the 8th seed, which is I think the big goal for that team.
As for this Vegas team, yeah, they were able to upset Thieves. I'm still not worried for Thieves. I think they just personally had an off event, and that I feel like if they don't get absolutely world star clutched on in this hard point, this is potentially a different series. It probably would have been a lot more demoralizing for Vegas, and they probably don't go on to win the search. Mind you, they won it 6-5 in some of the rounds that they were able to win. Absurd. I think LA Thieves has always been known for throwing away a lot of S&D advantages. But I don't know. This was just like I think Vegas in general as a team needs to get better at. They are fucking abysmal. They don't win rounds unless it's on like guaranteed fortresses. like our hotels, they're decent, they're okay at, but everyone just vetoes it. So they just like can't play a CeeLo, and then they gamble on fortress, and more often than not, since they're the less skilled team, they just get blown out. I mean, the problem with Vegas is their floor is bottom of the barrel. Like they might have like a decent like ceiling because of the who's on their team and the teamwork they have, but their floor is like in hell. Like, bro, they played Boston and they literally looked like they were playing ranked play. Like they were getting fucking stomped by Boston. It was that was probably the funniest series I've watched. I was like, yo, these guys are getting world starred. I actually need to find the stats. Hold on, I'll pull those up. But what do you think about this Vegas team and their upset against Thieves and such? Doug?
Well, I think that Vegas is one of those teams where you can't take them lightly, and it's kind of like what you said with that Boston series. It just comes down to like a matchup thing sometimes. So I like the addition of 2Real a lot. I'm a really big fan of his respawn gameplay, and I felt his impact a lot in challengers this year, especially before he got his call up too. And I know how hard he works. And a lot of these like guys that are coming from challengers, like the Ghosties and the Beans and the 2Reals and whoever else, the reason they're getting through is because I know they are working harder than CDL players are, because I'm friends with the CDL players and they tell me the amount that they work. And then I'm friends with the challenger guys and they're literally putting their whole life into it, like every second of the day. So if there's anyone who's willing to make it work, it would be 2Real. But I just feel that for me personally, I think that Vegas needs to make another change if they want to actually. And I'm not the biggest component of this, Pat. I know you love to talk about changes all the time, but I do think that they do need a change to win. They have the potential to win. I just don't know if it's with this variation of this roster, just because I just see too many flaws in the game that when you're playing in a world championship setting or you're playing in any elite setting for a finals or whatever the situation may be, there's too many holes in the game where a lot of things could go wrong, and all it's going to take is one of those things to go wrong for everything to crumble from there. So it was great that they got the upset. I think they have some great momentum moving forward. If I was Vegas, I wouldn't make the change personally yet, but yeah, I see a lot of holes in the game, and I think that they could tighten it up though, because I know how hard 2Real is going to work, and I know how hard their team is going to rally around it, and I think that they have some belief that they could beat the world champions in them. So if they could hold on to that, then they could start maybe getting a little bit better. But to me, I think that they need another change.
So I actually got the stats from this series. Overall in the series, 3 people on everyone on Boston Breach had a 1.2 or more. 3 people on Boston Breach had basically a 1.2, 1.28, 1.27, 1.3. A lot of that was from farming them on Fortress. However, the S&D was not pretty. Beans went like 8-2, Nero went 10-4. Like, they just got waxed, and that's on a map they were previously undefeated on, and that's like a map that they were previously undefeated on pretty much with Pro Loot. So these guys regressed a lot in Search. I think they're still decent at Search, but they're not as convincing. And then I feel like, yeah, they've gone better at Respawn in terms of their teamwork factor, and I feel like they're getting more out of their superstars in Donnie and Clay. I feel like those guys are pretty good. Donnie especially, I think, I would say overperformed, because I don't think it's realistic that he's going to drop 1.4s consistently, especially if the team is getting shit on, even though he's a great player. And for them to like team like Thieves. But dude, 2Real, yeah, you know how to play the game. But even though he's did well in challengers, this guy's always had an issue with playing well against pros. He throws up the stinkers all the time. And I love the kid. I think he's very smart. Whenever I coached him, I think he knows what he's talking about. But when it comes to executing and actually getting kills, a lot of the time he just struggled. And I don't know if they're going to continue to keep him on the team. I'm assuming they probably will, just because of how like I guess decent they did at this event and their potential. But I'm still not convinced until he has a pretty good series with the Vegas, because right now, at least online or on land, he's been getting smoked. Like he's putting up 0.6s, 0.5s, and like I said, I don't care about the 0.9s, the 0.8s. You can win with that. When you're dropping the 0.6s, bro, 0.5s, if you're spawning in on Bagra Fortress and dropping a 0.39 KD, you're not shooting your gun at the enemy team. You have no teamwork. You're getting spawn trapped. That's not translating to ticks. Like, and same goes for TJ. TJ also has not been particularly good at respawn. Their subs, they don't have SMG players on their team that can fight back against the Abizis, the Simps, what is it? Pred, fucking, they can't fight back. Yeah, they beat Thieves, and I get Envoy and Kenny are good, but Kenny has not been that good this year. Envoy at times has been good, but like, I don't think Vegas is gonna like pull up this type of upset every single. It's not gonna happen.
Yo, Chris, can I just say I'm kind of living for your hoodie arc right now, bro.
Bro,
I feel like we need hoodie Parasite.
I'm freezing right now in my room.
Well,
anyways, continue.
We'll just because they were also involved in possibly the strangest series in maybe COD history and mid-game substitution ever. So I don't know the exact diagnosis, but it was his hand, right? I believe Arcides had a hand injury that was bothering him. His hand was swollen, and I assume it was because their challengers team was playing at the same time, but good old coach MarkyB stepped in for 2 maps, winning one of them, and then throwing up a donut. It was unfortunate to hop into an S&D right away. Would have been nice to see him get a respawn, but I have so many questions. I don't even know what direction to go in with that, but it was something.
I'm confused too, because when I first heard Arceus was subbing out, someone said he's sick. I heard he threw up, and then he said on set stream that his hand was swollen, and I don't know. I'm a little confused by that. I hate to talk on it. Obviously, if I'm unaware of something that was seriously wrong, but from an outside looking in perspective, this was they kind of had to do well at this tournament. They're down in the dumps. They're 9th. They're 11th seed right now. They're very low in points. Their org is pulling out of esports. If they had any hopes to make champs, they had to get some points. And I thought really with them coming back after starting 0-3 in the online stages and winning 2 games, at the end I was okay, maybe we might see a turnaround here. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised by that. I mean, Doug, you know my thoughts on this. We obviously teamed when I cut my hand and still showed up to play. I feel like these kind of small nuanced excuses, your hand was swollen or whatever, you might get shit on, but it's show up for your team. I love Alec. I do. I mean, I think he's a great person, but yeah, I mean, this kind of feels like just this team is maybe in that stage where they're kind of just giving up almost, which is unfortunate. But MarkyB came in because they couldn't get anyone else due to them being in an active match. Somehow won a map against the Vegas. That was a little interesting on that Fortress Control, and I think that goes to show how Mickey Mouse Fortress Control is, that a coach can just sub in after not playing the game at all and beat another pro team. Yeah, but I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Very interesting turn of events, and then obviously they ended up losing and go home 12th. But this LAG team is in a weird boat. I mean, I just don't know if they really have a future. I don't see changes happening. I think they're just gonna fizzle out and be a bottom 4 team the rest of the year.
Well, I just want to add on to this, Pat. I don't know, and I think it's very important that you said that because I haven't heard anything about Alec. I don't know what happened to him. I genuinely have no idea. All I know is
he went on set stream and said his hand was swollen. That's all I know.
So it is what it is, I guess. But genuinely speaking, for me personally, man, the amount of work and I just want Alec to hear this personally. I don't know many people in this world who are working harder than me in COD esports right now to make a name for myself again, to get back to the top, to prove people wrong, to win a world championship. That's what we're dreaming for. I don't know many people in my shoes that you would have to rip my hands off my body for me to not play in this match, man. And being around people like you, Pat, at a young age and being able to associate with you and play with you and team with you for that iconic run where you don't get enough credit for what you did in that tournament in 2014 to stay up all night with no sleep, get stitches in your aiming thumb on your hand. You didn't complain. You literally sat down, almost got us forfeited. Sat down, you got smoked, you dropped a 0.5. I had absolutely zero faith in you. You came back versus one of the best teams and dropped 50 the first map. And after that, you inspired our whole team. And when a player just decides that I can't play, guys, I'm out. To me, personally, I'm going to feel like you quit on me. I'm going to be disappointed. It would have to be an extreme circumstance. It would have to be something where I'd be like, yeah, there's shadow, no doubt in my mind you can't play, man. No doubt in my mind. Maybe I'm just old school with this, Pat. Maybe I'm just getting older, but
like the ambulance is on the way, you can't play. Like
it has to be, yeah. Maybe it's just a new time and a new generation, and maybe we just need to be more open to that idea. But personally, man, you could have somebody cut my legs off. Yeah, you would have to cut my hands off of my body for me to not play in the match. Obviously, if my hands aren't there, I can't play. So it would have to be that far. Like that's the way my mentality sees it. And if I'm a teammate of Alex and you're just not going to be able to play, it would have to be like the hand is so bad and it's like, look, I can't even hold this controller. And that could be what it was, right? That could be what it was. So I don't really want to speak too much on it. Like I said, that's just the mentality I have. If you quit on me, man, because with you, Pat, you didn't quit. You dropped the 0.5, Ben. You got smoked. You didn't quit though, and you bounced back and you did what made you a legend, and you played the way that we needed you to play to win, man. And that's all that counts at the end of the day. So, for me, I was a little bit disappointed in it from an outside perspective in terms of hoping that he's okay. Because I don't want to just give sympathy out to people. Oh, I hope you feel better. I hope you, because I don't like that sympathy card either. But I really do hope everything is good. But at the same time, MarkyB subbing in was definitely one of the highlights of the tournament for me as a spectator. And I love the way that he handled it all. And I love the way the team rallied around him, after that map 3. And that's really what it's all about when you win, man. It's about getting a group of guys together on the same page, on the same energy, and executing when it matters. And it was really cool to see them do it on a map that might not be in the CDL for the rest of this year after all the talk that we've been seeing about Fortress Control. So that was definitely one of the most interesting moments of the tournament for me.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Alex's fucking hand, I'm not going to pretend I'm a doctor. A cut's different from like swelling or like potential nerve damage. So like, bro, if this guy can't play or he feels like something is very wrong where he has to sub out, I don't mind it. It's unfortunate. I think LAG in general kind of need this event to go well for them, which it sucks that happened. But at the end of the day, what more could tough to see. As for Alec, he hasn't really been playing well for this team in general. I think he's had a couple pop off like maps and stuff like that that have been able to maybe turn series his team's way, but overall consistency wise, I feel like Assault has played the better AR role on this team. I think this team just has too many ARs, and I think with speed of the game and how teams are catching up in these respawns, and especially in their controls, which they're not good at right now either, they just struggle to win hard points now. I don't think Joe Deceives, at least statistically, is living up to that superstar that people thought he was going to be whenever he came from challengers and stuff like that. I think ICED's been playing a lot better. So some of these people that I feel like you're expecting to perform are not performing to the level that you would want them to for this team to actually find success, which is tough. But yeah, unfortunate for Alec. And yeah, it was cool to see Marky playing. It was funny. It was even funnier for them to win a map. And this is a testament to how bad Vegas' control is. They lost one to fucking MarkyB. That's fucking hilarious to me.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark. And before we get into the community questions right now, I also loved that like the CDL Call of Duty has never been super creative with their chants, but I absolutely love that people were doing the Finding Nemo, like Mark, when he can. It's like, dude, out of all the scenarios, I don't know who thought of it, but the fact that they got creative in that moment gave me a little bit of hope for the future creativity when it comes to that stuff. But
I will say one thing though.
Yeah.
The CDL should never allow Crim to have a team walk out. Ever.
It was bad.
Yeah, it might have been the worst team walkout.
It was horrible.
But what can you do? I thought it was low-key gonna like check them a little bit. I would have been kind of pissed if I was like walking on stage and it was like almost like a WWE style intro when you're trying to get locked in for grand finals. But I guess
yeah,
if you're locked, you're locked. But yeah, on to community questions. Again, guys, please blast as many questions as you can in the comments section, and I'll try and get them to these guys. So the first one's kind of, I'm going to shift the question a little bit because I think the circumstances are tough right now, because he's basically asking if expansion ever happens and we get new teams in the CDL, which again, right now we have teams backing out of the CDL. So I think we need to solidify that first before we get some new ones in. But they're basically asking, would you like to see like some sort of expansion draft like other sports where teams could protect 2 or 3 players and then incoming franchises could choose from the unprotected players and free agents? And the reason being, why would new teams want to even come in the league if they have no shot at winning right away because players are under contract or taken and they only have challengers to pull from?
They don't have only challengers to pull from. They also have other people that have run out. They have buyout options or contracts run out, bro. Like, no. Yeah, a fucking draft? No. This is not normal sports.
Yeah, I think the thing about expansion is you have to come in on a year where like the majority of players' contracts are expiring. That's like the only way it works, right? Like we kind of when you look at like the players are always on like the 1+1s, and I know we just recently started seeing a couple of the 3-year deals get signed, but it's like when they're on like the second year of the 1+1, like that's kind of the year you expect. If there's ever going to be expansions, it has to be that year, because otherwise teams that come in like in the middle where like let's say 70%, 80% of the players are on their first year of their 1+1, it's like you're just going to come in and you're not going to get the team you want. And even if you come in with bukus of money, you're going to massively overpay for buyouts and then salary on top of that to even get the team you want. So in reality, I mean, it's kind of like the Pred and Sib situation that this year's happening. It's like these guys are going to be completely unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. So for teams coming in, buying an expansion slot, like this is the year to come in technically, because a lot of players' deals are expiring. And that's kind of shitty, because otherwise, I mean, I just don't think team coming in, you honestly, even if they want to be contenders, James, they're just going to have to pay a ton of money to get some of these, like, we've kind of talked about like the landscape of the CDL with like how it's so top heavy with the orgs willing to spend a lot of money versus like the other orgs that are just like minimum's good for you guys. Like that's all we're offering. So yeah, I don't think a draft would work. I just think there would have to be a kind of a luck of the timing of when the players' contracts expire.
Future CDL franchises looking to get into the CDL, and you're afraid that you're looking at the Shotzys and the Abizis and the Simps, and you're like, we don't have that talent and there's none to pull from. Hit my line. I can make teams for you for $0 that can beat these superstar teams that are sitting in challengers. You don't need the superstars. You can make your own. I'm a big fan of believing in that. So I'd love to see more teams get in. I definitely disagree with the draft system of, I'm with Pat and Chris on that 110%.
That shit's horrible.
Call of Duty to me, it will never be about the superstar talent. It's always about me having everyone on the same page, and Call of Duty is not the hardest game in the world to learn. And it's really not hard to like master a lot of the fundamentals of Call of Duty in terms of movements and gun skill and shooting. Teamwork is the hardest thing to master with 4 people getting them on the same page. It's not hard to find the players though. The players are not the hard part. It's the teamwork that's the hard part. CDL franchises coming in, bang my line. I got you.
Yeah, draft, bro. You're literally playing with
Bang Doug's line.
careers. Not only that, not every franchise pays the same. Like, bro, it's not happening.
Yeah. I will say, though, on a positive note of the CDL, we did hit a viewership record this weekend, which is great. And I think it kind of just goes to a testament of what we chatted about last episode. The ranked play being out, all the content around Call of Duty right now is at an all-time high. So on a positive note, the viewership and the numbers have been great around the whole scene.
I do hate that stat, though, because it's like we were locked into YouTube for every year. So it's like, basically every event's a viewership record because we're on Twitch. We got watch parties. Like, it kind of makes you wonder what like the viewership would have been, right, if Twitch was the main platform this whole time.
Yeah, you can only wonder. Now, last episode, I'll kick it off with Doug first to start this, because it was a kind of a follow-up question that somebody asked. We were talking about how everybody got their names, Parasite, Aches. Doug, how'd you get Censor?
Well, my name was Dougie Fresh, and I wanted to be cool when I was 12, and all these other people around me were making these alternating cap random word names, and it looked really cool when you were like going to lobby. So I liked the word conscience. I didn't like how it looked like when you wrote it out, but I like the idea of when you play Call of Duty, you have to have a good conscience on, do I push? Do I hold? Do I help? Do I team shot? Do I ego chow? Do I stay alive? How long do I wait until I make my play? Do I want to sit back for this long and then go? Or do I want to no hesitate, right? Like, that's how my brain was thinking when I was a 12-year-old. And I looked up a synonym for the word conscience, and because I love the meaning behind it. It was like, it's my philosophy as a player, really. And Censor on Urban Dictionary in 2008 said that conscience is synonym for conscience with censor. Not sure how or why, but
I feel like that's a lie. Yeah,
it probably is. It definitely is.
Doug
a lie,
got scammed.
Wait. Hold on. You were on Urban Dictionary looking for synonyms. You couldn't just Google 12. It or go to like Webster.
I was
Bro,
12.
Doug
didn't even know what ego chow meant at 12. Like, he's lying.
Doug was mastering routes back then.
Yeah,
he wasn't,
bro,
he
Doug,
wasn't worried about.
I hate to tell you. I hate to tell you that it's just a lie. That is not a synonym for
My life
conscience.
now, Pat.
And
Pat literally looked it up.
Your life's a lie. I hate that.
Oh gosh. But that does transition into what the follow-up question was, and this is kind of just a broad conversation between the three of you. Who do you think has like some of the worst names and best names like in the league?
Slacked. Not in the league, but
In the space.
Yeah,
Call of Duty history. Are you saying good or bad?
bad. Slacked. Might
Yeah,
be top.
Slacks is pretty
Might be
horrible.
one of the worst. One of the best. Big Timer. That's a good name.
Yeah, that was clean.
I like JCap the most, to be honest. I love JCap.
Bro, you're so boring.
Bro, his name is Jordan Kaplan. It's just J and Cap.
Yeah, I like it. It's clean. I love clean, man. It's good.
I think I like Formals a lot. It was just a good tag.
Clean.
Thoughts, boys? Thoughts?
God. Who?
Slack might be
so
the
terrible.
I'm gonna be honest with the league players, man. What the
Beans.
fuck? No. Beans is all right. What the fuck is
Nah.
Abeezy, man? What is Abeezy? I need to know the meaning behind Abeezy. What the fuck is that, dude?
Man, I don't like simps either. Simp, like, come on, we could have done something else.
It wasn't his a case where like it was simplicity and then he shortened it or something?
Yeah, it's a simp,
Because
now
I
it's
think
like
I
a
was gonna
whole
say
thing.
Oh,
I think
really?
he had simp before it was like it had the whole simp meaning
Okay.
to it. Because I remember when like it got banned on Twitch a while ago. I think I remember people talking about how like obviously I don't know, what does he do in that scenario?
Bro, Arcides sounds like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Is it a Pokemon?
What?
Arcides? Does that not sound like a legendary Pokemon?
It does.
Varsity sounds unique. Pristine and Varsity, both of them, they're very unique. They're very like kind of cheesy sounding, but like when I really think about it, I think they're actually very unique names. I rate those names. They're good.
I like Pristinis.
Solid.
Skies.
Bro,
might
I'm
be
having like
the worst
I'm
one.
having like a mental block on who's in the league right now. I'm thinking of names. Like, bro, who the fuck are the players?
Beans is
Wait, no. The worst name in the league, simply because, in my opinion, and there's nothing to do against him at all. Accuracy, man. Accuracy. It doesn't get much more cookie cutter than accuracy, dude. Come on, like let me just say, wall, outlet, bottle. Like, come on, accuracy, man. What are we doing? Come on, Lamar.
Oh,
he's an FPS player and his name is Accuracy.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
like, come on, it's so cliche, man.
Who else, man?
It's all opinionated, though, man. At the end
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
just
of
a
course.
lot, bro. Like,
There's so
I don't
many.
know, it's hard to think.
Well,
Well, I will say
Slack might be the
there's a
worst.
scrappy and a scraps. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Man,
we will move on to a question with a little more concrete answers. We'll go. You can each go through. Who are your top 3 players in the game right now?
Fred, Scrappy, and Abeezy. Or I'll go Cellium.
Pred, Cell.
Scrappy, you gotta say it, man.
It might
Guys
be a
copying me.
BZ or CleanX though. I don't want to give two. I don't want to give two ARs.
Did you see Scrappy's stats though from like not just this event but like all of major 3? He was like 1.2, 1.2, 1.2 across the board, all 3 modes. Pretty absurd.
Yeah, he had a godlike stage. I mean, the thing is though, like Scraps has been good.
But James' question was right now.
Nah, because Dashy had same stats literally last fucking major plus.
Yes, he was a top 3 player last stage. But right now, right after major 3, it's Scrappy.
I guess.
right now, Scrappy's the best in the game. I think Abeezy is very underrated. I don't think he gets enough. Obviously, we all rate him extremely high, but really, to me, Tyler is just. I always thought Simp was better. honestly. But the way I'm looking at Tyler now, man, I think he's the best SMG in COD right now. And then I also want to say Hydra, even though their team isn't getting the same placings, the way he manipulates and maneuvers on the map, it's so consistent. I'm just going to go a little bit against the grain with Hydra, Abizi, and Scrappy.
I would say Shotzzy based on how he played this tournament, but he had a shit stage.
Nah,
And
bro,
he
it
makes
can't be
way too
Shotzzy
many-
because the guy's
listen,
jumping
listen,
out
let
of
me finish.
yeah.
He makes way too many like mistakes that like are like costing like entire maps or situations, and it sucks. But I mean, he has that potential, but he's not there yet.
Oh, he could be like clear top 1 if he played the way he did, but didn't make the horrible plays.
Now,
Yeah.
I have one final follow-up question to that because I think it's something that people have been talking about this weekend with Shotzzy's playstyle. Like, how do you do that? How do you like make him make the right plays when his playstyle is so it's like so often that scenario where if it works out, everyone's like, holy fuck, he's the best in the game. And if it doesn't work out, it's all Shotzi's fault. And so it's like
I honestly don't know if you can. Like, I feel like it's just one of those things you're gonna live and die by. Like, he's just gonna make those like flashy, like just ridiculous plays, and sometimes it's gonna work and it's gonna look godlike, and then sometimes it's gonna be like, wow, you just costed your team. I really, there's a lot of those players honestly throughout the history of Call of Duty who just had one gear, and it's like he's godlike at that gear, but he plays the gear that's like sometimes it's just not gonna work and it's gonna look very costly.
I think the easiest way and the simplest way, and this is just because you know how players think, you know how you yourself think. Whenever you get kills, if you're alone, when you get a kill, wait like 2-3 seconds before you make your next. Because what
The
that
problem,
does
Chris,
is,
the problem with that is like you could tell a player that, but it's like in the heat of the moment,
well, yeah,
that
I'm just
it
saying,
never
be simple about
sinks.
it. That should be
Yeah,
like
but
the
that's what I'm
most
saying. It just never
instinctual thing.
sticks.
If you're ever alone, pushed up on the map, and you get a kill, you wait 2 to 3 seconds before you make your next move. Not only gives you time to heal, but it makes it so that people that are looking for you don't just pick up free like kills on you because they called you out.
It's be a hard
people did
trade.
that-
Like
If
be a hard
people did
trade.
that more, if people did that more often, then I feel like they would just make better plays. Like just wait a second or two before your next move, and like, wow, you just became a 10 times better player.
yeah. You know, it'd be a cool stat if they tracked. Maybe they do somewhere. Like, do they have like distance traveled by players? Like
I don't
stats.
think they do, but they do need that.
They used to.
That would
I
be a
remember
cool
in
stat to look at.
I remember in Black Ops 3 they had that somewhere. It wasn't on the
After this
stat
event, I
sheet.
want to
It
see
was like a hidden
number
stat.
of dolphin dives because that guy hit a dolphin dive like non-stop every life.
Oh.
No one dolphin dives as much as Shotzzy, bro.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again for the Battle Beaver giveaway. Make sure you comment your favorite player in the CDL right now. Throw on your Twitter handle if you have one. It's not necessary, so don't scream in the comments if you don't have a Twitter. Keep asking the community questions.
But if you don't have one, make one.
Yeah, make
And
one. Why
follow
not
me.
have a Twitter? So, yeah, stay up to date with all the
Free.
stuff going on in the scene. It's free for now. I don't know what Elon's got planned, but right now it is.
Good point.
But yeah, that's gonna do it. Doug back again for the major episode. Doug, thanks for joining us, my friend. Chris, Pat, it was a pleasure. We will see you guys for the first week of the next stage. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Anything from you boys before we?
No, I'm good, man.
We got a nice
Thank you
little
guys all for
2-week
watching,
break.
and hope you guys enjoyed the major.
Beautiful. Alrighty.
I don't know if it picked up, but we got a nice 2-week break, and then we'll be back.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm exhausted right now, man. I slept 4 hours the last 2 days. I played the most COD I've ever played in a tournament game. And I am just fried right now. Like, I cannot wait to just pass out.
Let's get Doug to bed. All right. Deuces, everybody.
Have a good night,
Have a
guys.
good night, guys.